Hello and welcome to our today's lesson on copywriting and design from School of Social Sciences, Department of Journalism and Mass Communication. My name is Mr. Michael Mwangangi. To start with, let's get to understand different terminologies. We start by understanding what copywriting is. And copywriting is the act of writing copy, that's the text, for the purpose of advertising or marketing a product, business, person, opinion, or idea. The addressee, that's the reader, the listener, etc., of that copy is meant to be persuaded to buy the product that has been advertised, that is being advertised for, or subscribe to the viewpoint the text shares. A copy is a written material which is in contrast to photographs or other elements of layout in a large number of contexts, including magazines, advertising, and books. Now, when it comes to these other publications, like for example, magazines, newspapers, and textbooks, when we are talking about copy, we are referring to all those other materials that are brought so that they can be published. And in such a case, there we talk about the text, that's the written words, the illustrations and the endlines that will be used to communicate a particular kind of message. Further, we are saying that copy in advertising or web marketing and similar fields refer to the output of copywriters who are employed to write material which encourages customers to buy goods or services. In the newspapers and magazines, the body copy, that's the main article or text that writers are responsible for, is contrasted with display copy that accompanies materials such as endlines and captions, which are usually written by copy editors or sub-editors. Now, it's again better for us to understand these two terminologies, that's body copy and display copy. When it comes to newspapers or magazines, we usually have the front page that usually is meant to attract the audience to purchase that given publication. So it is meant to attract, and that's why we are referring to it as the display copy. The body copy, in other case, it's just the written text in a given probably story. Now, who are copywriters? These are employees within organizations such as advertising agencies, public relations firms, company advertising departments, large stores, marketing firms, broadcasters and cable providers, newspapers, book publishers, and magazines. So all those who are employed there to provide copy or to write all that text or stories that are to be featured there, we refer to them as copywriters. Copywriters can also be independent contractors who freelance for a variety of clients or partners or employees in a specialized copywriting agency. Such agencies combine copywriting services with a range of editorial and associated services that may include positioning and messaging consulting, social media and search engine optimization consulting, copy editing, proofreading, fact-checking, layout, and design. A copywriter usually works as a part of a creative team. Now, when it comes to advertising, in case of newspapers, we'll be able to read the text that is there and at the same time be able to see the graphics plus the images that usually accompany that text. So when it comes to advertising, we usually have two individuals who usually come up with that complete advertisement, and that's the copywriter and the art director. So the work of the copywriter is to assemble the written or the textual content of the advert, while the art director, his work is to work on the visual content. So let's look at the good writing that makes copy, or rather, good writing in copy makes things happen. So the techniques of creative copywriting are really about finding the most natural way to communicate well with others, and business main aim is to deliver a profit. So if you are working in these different institutions or companies or agencies that we've talked about, know that they are having a client that they are supposed to serve. And in such a case, you realize that the main objective of this particular client is to make a profit. So you are being given this responsibility as a copywriter to come up with a well-written copy that will be used as, or rather, that will be used in advertising the client's product. So we want to be able to make all our target customers to flock our shops and the like, to be able to purchase the product that the client is advertising. So before the competitive nature of the global marketplace went up, all you needed to do to have a successful business was to identify and satisfy customer need. Now, currently, you realize that there is a lot of competition, especially when it comes to the producers who produce similar product. We usually have many of them. So that simply means that as a producer, your product will be moving if at all the consumers are convinced that you are offering them best in comparison with other products that are being offered or other goods and services that are being offered by the client's competitors. So that's why we are saying that our abundant times have created a huge amount of choice, and with the choice comes competition. To stay in the market, you now have to tell the customers why you are better, why they shouldn't bother to knock on your door, and why they should keep coming back to you. Okay? So based on this, you realize that the copywriters have much of work to do, and they shouldn't be creative people who can be able to easily come up with the convincing words within the copy that they are going to prepare that will be used for marketing or that will be used to advertise the client's good or service. Next, we are saying that there has been an enormous increase in different media that can be used to reach customers. That's from blogs, microsites to retail displays, and email campaigns. So again, you realize that these target customers or these audiences that we are targeting with our clients' product, they rely on different media to get this information that the different producers want that information to reach to them. So some of those, you know that we have the traditional media, that's newspapers, we have the television, we have the radio. Nowadays we have the new media, including now the social media. So all these areas are used to communicate the client's product. So with that, we are saying that this audience have so many options, and they can be able now to select and deselect whichever message that they would want to consume. Next, the starting point has to be to select the best way to reach people which is achieved by making sure that the overall message you are communicating is targeted, relevant, and inspiring. Okay? So as a copywriter, what is expected of you first is for you to identify who your target customers or who your target audience are. So once you identify who they are, then you'll be able now to at least package the message within your copy in such a way that they will find that message relevant and be able to satisfy their needs. And you have to do that in an inspiring way. The attitudes and principles that apply to copywriting for external customers also apply to any written or spoken communication. And definitely the rule is that you make your copy to be clear, that is to be easy to be understood, and at the same time provide factual information. Now, what to do for you to be able to come up with that good copy? One, you have to have a target audience. Okay, so there are so many benefits of you going ahead to identify the kind of people that you want to communicate to, or the kind of audience or customers that you need to communicate to. So we are saying that your essential objective as a copywriter is to create clear, easily understood messages that target and define the audience and encourage them to do something for your client. So the first thing is for you to try and understand your audience, and that in the process you realize that you'll be able to understand what age they are, you'll be able to understand their purchasing power, you'll be able to understand probably the different type of commodities or products that most of the time they purchase. So with that, you can be able to determine whether that target audience of yours can be convinced probably to purchase this new product that somehow you are advertising through the copy that you'll be producing. The best way to write copy is to focus completely on the true nature of the target audience, and your reader will feel at home with your writing. Now, when you are writing, if at all you have done your research and you know your target audience inside out, maybe based on the brief that you've been given, or based on the research that you do personally, or based on the experience that you have, you realize that once you've known the kind of audience that you are targeting, then writing that copy that will suit them and also will be able to identify how the product will be of benefit to them, it will be so easy. Understand the audience so that your message are crafted with them in mind. This will produce compelling, or rather, this will produce compelling at beating at the core of your message. So consider the makeup of your audience and their particular habits, such as their buying patterns, and make sure your copy plays to this at all times. Next, build up a profile of this audience. Okay, now on that point, what you are supposed to do is to try to understand your audience and identify probably their purchasing power, the places that they usually go out to, okay, and alike. So again, once you have understood your audience, again you'll be able to know the level of language that you are going to use, or the language that you are going to use that is able to relate to them. The most comprehensive briefs can give you an in-depth picture of your audience based on economic profile, geographical location, and even the type of street they live on. Okay, so when talking about briefs, this is the information that will be provided to you by the client who is commissioning you to prepare this copy for him. Okay, so when you are being given this brief, you realize that in most cases, probably you'll be given that comprehensive or detailed information pertaining the work that you're supposed to do and the kind of customers that your client aims at. So if you don't, then you'll have to do your own background research on that so that you can be able now to develop a detailed profile of this target audience. Now, when you are writing or when you are preparing that copy, it's important for you to concentrate on the benefits and not the features. Now, you should know that when you are selling something, you don't tell your customers what it does. You tell them how or why it will improve their lives. Okay? So, this person who is being targeted wants to know if he is to purchase that particular product, how will it be of benefit to him. So, each of the features that you can be able to identify within a given product usually comes with a related benefit to the customer or to the consumer. So what we are saying is that when you are preparing a copy, identify those benefits, okay, that the consumer, the customer, will be able to derive from the product, and then you focus on that. Every feature, we are saying that every feature has an associated benefit, and the core benefits often lead into peripheral benefits, and you will need to decide which one to focus on. So you'll find that there are so many benefits, but there are some of those benefits that are compelling more than others. So go ahead and focus on those, or that single benefit that will be able to drive this would-be customer to go ahead and acquire or purchase that product. Next, working out the benefits is a logical process as long as you always focus on your audience. It is also important to remember that the benefits of a product or service for one audience will not necessarily be the same as the benefit for another. Now, know that it's your role to determine which benefit or which benefits are the most compelling and which benefits and the features are not essential to the brief. Okay, and that's why we are saying that when you're preparing your copy, you ought to identify those benefits or that one key benefits that can be able to stand out and at the same time can be able to make the audience to make a move towards purchasing the product. So you're saying that don't be afraid to describe only one benefit in your overall statement, simply because at times less is often more, and by highlighting one clear benefit, you will capture the reader's attention and persuade them to look into what you are offering. Focus on what you can achieve. That's another advice, that you realize that in most cases, not all the members of that given target audience will be convinced to take the action that you want them to take. So there are those who will go ahead and purchase, and there are those, even if you are to keep on persuading them, they have already made their mind whether to purchase or not to purchase. The other advice that we can give in relation to the benefits that you are going to focus on when you are writing your copy is that you should know that there are those whom we can refer to them as floating voters. Okay, so these are those members of the audience who may be tempted to buy, but need a literal nudge, an extra reason before they can commit themselves to going ahead and purchasing the product. The other thing is that you should consider the tone of voice. Okay, so you have already identified your target audience. You know the kind of audience that you are trying to persuade to purchase. Now, having already understood that, you need also to consider the tone of voice that you are going to use. Okay, so this will be based on maybe the level of education of your target audience. It might as well be based on the age, okay, and the like. So we are saying that revisit your audience profile and ask yourself if the tone of your copy is the right one for them, that you be clear about your role. If you are explaining the benefits of back to work scheme for 16-year-olds who have left school with no qualifications, you are not expected to use hip-hop street language. What you must do is to show them you understand the teenage audience, and you go and use phrases such as, for example, open quote, sometimes it can feel like you haven't got a chance of getting a decent job, and you haven't even started yet, or you may have felt that school was simply a waste of time, but now you can really make the start you have always wanted. So just stick to the stick to the simple vocabulary, and treat them with respect and be real. Now, the other consideration is that you be clear, and we are saying that your copy should be as clear and digestible as possible. So make it easy for yourself and keep everything simple. So how are you going to achieve that? So when you're writing, you ensure that you use a common, or rather those words that we usually commonly use when we are expressing ourselves on a day-to-day basis. Next, your role is to express ideas, concepts, and message in a clear and compelling way. You avoid long words and complex sentences. Be consistent with your style. Make your spelling perfect. And we are saying that there's never an excuse for typographical error. So use spelling checker when you are coming up with your copy. So also consider to punctuate properly. So establish a consistent style for the use of initial capitals and dashes plus those other punctuation marks. Now, typography. Design and copy really come together in typography, which is a true craft with generations of tradition and one of the most stylish and powerful expressions of graphic ideas. So simply when we are talking about typography is how your copy will come out or will appear maybe on a screen or maybe on a screen or maybe on that magazine or newspaper where the advert will be placed. So we are saying that where the idea comes from the designer or the writer, the phrase or word set in a skilled way can have enormous impact. The designer will be working to the same brief as you, but is coming at it from the visual perspective. So some designers pay a lot of attention to the copy, reading it and absorbing the content. Some get it into the words from the typographical point of view and alike. So in some cases, the designer sits in the same room as you, and you can discuss the project as it progresses. So what you're supposed to understand is that if you are working on the same copy as a copywriter with the designer, so you know that yours is to concentrate on the textual content, while the designer is concentrating on the visual aspect of that given artifact. So it will be better if you can be working as a team. Okay, so you first share the objective of what you wanted to achieve with that particular copy that you are preparing, such that when the designer is coming up with his designs, will be moving towards the same objective as yours. So the real magic, and that's why we are saying that the real magic can take place only when the writer and designer are in sync, when they have a common understanding and complement each other's work. Therefore, discuss the profile of your audience with the designer. Compare notes on who they are, what makes them tick, and the approach you should take to communicate to them. So ask yourself, what are they like? Why will they be interested? How will the design grab their attention and set the scene? So what will be, or rather ask yourself as well, what will be your core message? Is there a visual concept that will propel this? What overall effect are we trying to create? And alike. So let your ideas flow and fish around them to see if a strong picture starts to emerge. Always refer back to your audience profile. Refer back to your audience profile, check on the core message and the overriding benefit that you are focusing on. So your designer will be concentrating on creating the impact and being your designer will be concentrating on creating the impact and being different. Now your job is to process your raw material, organize the messages, and draft the copy. So can we talk about the copy structure? Copy structure is the same as the format of your copy, and it usually has different parts or sections. So the first part is usually the endline, and the endline is there to grab the attention and provide interest to the audience. We usually have another part, which is the first paragraph, or what we refer to it as the intro, which is there to explain more about the endline and also promise the reader to be able to get more as he progresses to read the copy. We have the body copy. This part delivers the promises, clearly linking the revelations to the promises. We have another part, which is further temptations, which offers new promises later in the text, delivering them before the end of the article. And then a final paragraph, which reminds the reader about the promise, how they will be fulfilled, how they will benefit them, and what they need to do, if anything. Okay, so here on this particular paragraph is where we provide maybe the phone number that the reader can call to get the product, or where he can visit to acquire that product. Let's look at the copy endlines. So we have already said that copy endlines, or the endlines in a copy, one of the most important. So on this part, we are going to look at what you are supposed to know about copy endlines and how you should go and probably draft them. So we are saying that if you need to make money from marketing campaigns, your endline is your first and biggest weapon in capturing attention. So get it right, and you have you have temporarily captive audience and the possibility of winning orders. So we have 3 categories of headlines in your copy. We have those that are promises news, and you know, in some of the products you want to promise something that is new. So if that's the case, you'll be having such kind of headline. We have those that arouses curiosity, and we have those that offers benefit. So you should know that a headline that is able to combine those 3, then it will be the most effective. So a copywriter, as a copywriter, you know your product inside out, and you know what it does for your customers. You know what makes it special and different. So with all this, definitely you'll be able to look at all those benefits and be able to craft an headline or a copy headline that will be able to attract attention of your readers and also create interest. Now, examples of a good and bad headline. We have the first example there, which we are saying that it's not a good headline for your copy. And we are saying that have you discovered LNG refrigerators yet? Now, if the reader comes across such kind of a headline, he finds that it is not adding any value to him. So he doesn't see any need to progress to read the other parts of the copy. But if he comes across that other example of headline, which is fighter pilots, how this everyday vegetable can help you see better at night. So if he comes across that kind of headline, he says that there is a benefit that he or she is going to get out of that. Okay, and that will make the reader be able now to progress to the next step, so that he can be able now to find out which is this vegetable that can enable him, once he consumes it, be able to see clearly at night. Now, guidelines in copy headline writing. Now, step 1, you should be able to complete the following sentence, that my product helps my customers because it ellipsis. So you realize once you have such kind of a statement, you'll be able to highlight or to be able to identify which benefits your customers will be able to get once they get that given product. So it's like you're promising them that these are the benefits that they will be able to acquire if they are to go ahead and read and eventually go ahead and acquire that product. Step 2, cut everything up to and including it. So we do not want to include the words that are not adding any value to the headline, because we want each and every word to be able to at least communicate something to the reader. And most of the time you're informed that the headlines are supposed to be short. So remove any of the words that are not going to add any value. So example, saves them money when they buy their next new car. Okay, so there we have removed the word it. It saves them money when they buy their new car. Next step, change the word them and they to you. Okay, so you want at least to tell or to let the audience know that you are addressing them directly. Okay, so that's why you are changing the word them or they and go directly to address the person. So you remove those words and change them to you. For example, save money when you buy your next new car. Now the next step is to make the headline or whatever that is happening there to seem urgent, and you do that by adding the word now. So you start with the word now. For example, now an easy way to or rather now and is way to, or you just go ahead and include that word now at the beginning. For example, now an easy way to save money when you buy your next new car. Okay, so that tells you that this is something that is new, and you cannot afford not to get to know about it, or not to fail to acquire probably that product. So there are no fixed rules on the best format for endline, but you realize that when you use the word how to kind of endlines, or when you use the how to kind of endlines, they usually work well most of the time. And you can have some examples like how to save £35 a week on your family's food bill. Okay, so you'll be looking forward, how can you go ahead and save so much money on each week on when you're doing your shopping for your family. How to impress even the most skeptical ballroom dancing judge. Okay, so you're looking forward to being given those step-by-step ways of impressing that skeptical judge and the like. We are saying that if you want to earn a sense of newness, the simplest trick is to add the word new, and we've come across that. So you have an example there. So next, design and layout. So again, it is important for you to consider how your endlines will look like in your copy. And it is clear that endlines are supposed to be written with a large point size than the rest of the body of the copy. Okay, so definitely that is to make them to stand out from the rest of the text. The other consideration is that don't use all caps. You just use the caps at the start of now your endline. Okay, the reason being that when you use uppercase or these caps, each of those words seems to stand on their own, and it may give the reader hard time reading that endline. Okay, so it's better the endline to be written using lowercase. Now, the other advice is that never use full stops at the end of your endlines. Okay, so when you use full stops, they kind of tell the reader to stop. Okay, but you know that you want the reader to continue to read the body of the copy that you have prepared. So avoid full stops within the start, or rather within the headline of your copy. So there are some of the words that you can use to make your headline appear new, and examples of some of those are like introducing, announcing, finally, at last, new, now, it's a year, after 10 years, or after 5 years, etc. So there are also styles or simply techniques that you can employ for your copy endlines, and they are as follows. One of them, you can use a journalistic endline, and we know that when you are using this kind of endline, you are starting with, or rather, there's that key message that you want to deliver to the audience that summarizes the rest of the story. And examples that we have there, for example, the secret of fine wine collecting refilled, 207 ways to cut your tax bill this year. Another example is that looks good, smells better. Is this the ultimate aftershave? Okay, so those are examples that you can use for your end line. Okay, another technique, use storytelling or editorial techniques. Example of such is that they loved when I sat down at the piano, but when I started to play, this and this happened. Example, he started life on the wrong side of the tracks. Now he is running the company. Those are some of examples on that. Another technique is that you compare the value with the price. Okay. A good example that we can have there is that you want a CEO lifestyle on a part-time salary. Okay. Another example or technique is break the price down into manageable chunks, and in most cases you realize that here is where we tell you of the much that you can be able to pay per month so that you can acquire a given product. Example is the car that you have always dreamt of for just £129 a month. The other technique that you can employ, you feature the discount. Example, save £100 when you subscribe to Copywriter magazine by direct debit. The other technique is you provide practical information. Example on such kind of a technique is the 7 steps to a perfect loan. Another example, you want to improve your copywriting, or rather, do you want to improve your copywriting, etc. Another style, you can as well come up with an end line that is in form of a quotation or a testimony. Example is that I'll never, or rather, I had never won anything, then I joined Quiz Friends, and now I drive a new BMW. Example 2, you can make money on the stock market without stock fix. Now another technique, ask your reader a question. So the end lines will be in this technique in form of questions. So have you ever wished you could retire early? Another example, what would you do with £1 million? The last technique is where you come in halfway through a sentence, and we have an example there, because there is more to driving than miles per gallon. Okay, so that brings us to the end of our lesson today. Thank you.